The debate over the United States' military actions against Iran has entered a tense and legally complex phase, as the administration of Donald Trump argues that its obligation under the War Powers Resolution no longer apply in the same way due to a ceasefire reached in early April. While the administration maintains that the conflict has effectively been terminated, many lawmakers, particularly Democrats, strongly dispute that interpretation, setting up a significant constitutional and political confrontation in Washington. Well, the conflict, which began on February 28 following US-led strikes on Iranian targets, triggered a series of retaliatory actions and heightened tensions across the Middle East, including disruptions to key shipping routes such as the Strait of Hormuz. And on March 2, Donald Trump formally notified Congress of the hostilities, thereby activating the 60-day clock mandated by the War Powers Resolution. And under this law, the president is required to either obtain congressional authorization or end military operations within that period, and with a limited 30-day extension allowed only for the safe withdrawal of the forces. And the 60-day deadline falls on May 1. However, the administration argues that the ceasefire agreed upon around April 7 or 8 fundamentally changes the legal landscape. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has stated that since there has been no exchange of fire between US and Iranian forces since the ceasefire began, and the clock should be considered paused. And according to this view, the absence of active hostilities means that the United States is no longer engaged in the kind of conflict that the War Powers Resolution was designed to regulate. And this interpretation has become central to the administration's position. Officials argue that while military pressure continues through measures like naval deployments and economic blockades, the lack of direct combat means the legal threshold requiring congressional approval has not been crossed. Hegseth emphasized that the administration believes it retains public support and is acting within a defensible legal framework. Democrats, led by figures such as Tim Kaine, have rejected this argument outright. They contend that the War Powers Resolution contains no provision allowing a ceasefire to pause or reset the 60-day deadline. And from their perspective, the administration is stretching the law to preserve unilateral authority over military operations. Legal experts have echoed these concerns, noting that the statute's text and intent do not accommodate such an interpretation. And despite the ceasefire, tensions remain high, and Iran continues to exert pressure in strategic waterways, while the US maintains a strong military presence in the region. Reports also indicate that American military officials, including leaders from Central Command, have already presented Donald Trump with options for renewed strikes should negotiations fail. And all these potential plans include targeted attacks on Iranian military infrastructure and the possible deployment of advanced weapons systems, underscoring that the conflict may be paused rather than truly concluded. And at the same time, global economic impacts are becoming increasingly visible, and oil prices surged to around $126 per barrel at the peak, before stabilizing near $115, reflecting market anxiety over supply disruptions. And the economic strain has had ripple effects worldwide, including significant financial pressures on energy importing countries. And within Congress, efforts to restrain the president's war powers have so far failed. Multiple resolutions aimed at forcing an end to hostilities without authorization have been defeated, often along party lines. And even when such measures gain some bipartisan support, they have faced steep hurdles in both the chambers and the likelihood of a presidential veto. Courts, historically reluctant to intervene in disputes over war powers, are unlikely to provide a clear resolution. And as a result, the situation remains unresolved. The administration continues to assert that it is operating within legal bounds, while critics argue that it is bypassing Congress at a critical moment. And with lawmakers in recess and negotiations with Iran largely opaque, the next steps, whether a formal peace agreement, renewed conflict, or a prolonged legal standoff, remains uncertain. That's all for now. Stay tuned to the Savera for more updates. Do like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.